Stella, you've worked hard. These past 10 years you've really worked so hard. Jared's voice was as gentle as a spring breeze. I looked up at his handsome profile. Under the warm glow of the lights, every inch of his face looked like a carefully sculpted work of art. For the past decade, he had been my only emotional pillar, and the entire meaning behind my struggle. Beside him, Lily was holding up her phone, beaming at us. Look, the power couple of Lumina Institute. If I post this photo, everyone's going to be so jealous. Her voice was crisp and sweet, just as it always was. I didn't smile. I just watched them quietly. I looked at Jared's hand resting on my shoulder, and I watched the familiar flash of greed and jealousy flicker through Lily's eyes. My fingertips were ice cold. A bone-chilling shiver spread from the base of my spine, making me feel like I was back in that freezing apartment with nothing but a single dim wall lamp. In my past life, it was right after this night, the night we achieved the final breakthrough on the novel biomarker for early Alzheimer's diagnosis, that I began my step-by-step descent into the abyss. Jared had said the same thing to me, so gently. You've worked hard. Then, under the guise of needing a double backup for data security, he copied all the core data from my computer. 2 days later, Lily's name appeared as the first author on a preprint paper that shocked the entire neuroscience community. The core theory, the data models, even the color scheme of the charts were identical to my unpublished drafts. I confronted Jared like a madwoman, but he just frowned, looking at me with a mix of disappointment and impatience I'd never seen before. Stella, why have you become so paranoid? Lily just had some inspiration based on our daily discussions. How can you accuse her of plagiarism out of thin air? Our daily discussions? I was trembling with rage. Those data points are the result of 3,000 sleepless nights and over 10,000 experiments I ran personally. Every single bite is my blood, sweat, and tears. Enough! He yelled at me for the first time. Stella, your jealousy is out of control. Lily is my childhood friend, we grew up together. I treat her like a sister. How can you think of her that way? Is the stress getting to you? Are you hallucinating? Hallucinating. I looked at the coldness in his eyes. In that moment, I felt abandoned by the entire world. My lover, the partner I trusted most, was pointing at my nose and calling me crazy. Later, the rumors started flying. Everyone said Stella, was bitter and jealous, slandering a colleague out of spite. Lily, meanwhile, played the perpetual victim, always looking like she was on the verge of tears. She would hide behind Jared and say timidly, Stella, I'm sorry. If my existence makes you unhappy, I can leave. The more she acted like that, the more Jared's heart ached for her, and the more I looked like a vicious, petty clown. I was isolated, investigated, and suspended from all research work. The career I took pride in, the work I depended on for my livelihood, vanished overnight. Jared, on the other hand, rode the wave of my achievements to a promotion, becoming the youngest deputy chief in the history of Lumina Institute. He stood next to Lily, accepting media interviews, hailed as the industry's golden couple. I sank deeper and deeper into a quagmire of self-doubt and depression. Finally, on that winter night, I used a hand that was once as steady as a surgeon's to slice open my own wrist. The warm blood soaked my white lab coat. The last thing I saw was a photo on the wall, a picture of Jared and me from happier times. That cold scalpel eventually dissected me. Stella, what are you thinking about? You're so zoned out. Jared's voice pulled me back from the bloody memories. I blinked. The lights in front of me were bright. Nothing had happened yet. I was reborn. I had returned to the night before the tragedy began. I looked at the concern in Jared's eyes, detecting the hidden trace of urgency buried underneath. I knew he was waiting for me to let my guard down in my exhaustion and joy, so he could, just like in my past life, make that fatal request for a backup. I gave him a weak, dependent smile, just as I had countless times before. It's nothing, just too excited. Jared, we did it. We really did it. Yes, we did. The smile in his eyes deepened. He squeezed my shoulder and kissed my forehead lightly. You rest for a bit. I'll go get you some hot water. By the way, to prevent any accidents, let me back up the final data first. I'll put it on my portable drive. Double insurance. Here it was. The exact same script, word for word. My heart beat calmly and powerfully in my chest. The panic and anger of my past life were gone, replaced by a cold, almost cruel clarity. I nodded, my voice as docile as a kitten. Okay, you're always so thoughtful. You go ahead, I'll tidy up the lab bench. He smiled with satisfaction and turned to walk toward his office. Lily smiled too, following him, but not before turning back to mouth fighting at me with a supportive fist pump. The moment they turned around, the smile vanished from my face, replaced by a glacial chill. I walked to my lab computer, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I didn't encrypt anything. I didn't transfer anything. I knew that any defense against people actively plotting against you would eventually have a loophole. The best defense isn't building a wall, it's offering a poisoned apple. I selected the true core data, the biomarker model for early Alzheimer's diagnosis that took me 10 years to build, along with all the original records. Then I pressed Shift+Delete. Permanently delete. The confirmation box popped up on the screen. I didn't hesitate for a second. I hit enter. The progress bar flew to the end. 10 years of my life, and the tragedy of my past existence, were wiped clean in a second. Next, I pulled another folder from a hidden, encrypted drive. This was the gift I had forged over 3 sleepless days and nights since my rebirth, utilizing my memories from the future and my own expertise. It was a project that looked seamless, even more stunning and forward-thinking than the original. Neuronal reversal therapy for Alzheimer's disease. Its theoretical foundation was flawless. The data models were dazzling. But deep in the bottom layer of a core algorithm, I had quietly planted a fatal error. Any clinical application based on this flawed algorithm wouldn't cure patients. Instead, it would act like a catalyst, accelerating the death of their neurons. This was a death warrant, sufficient to ruin anyone's reputation or even send them to prison. I renamed the folder Final Version Core Breakthrough. Just as I finished, Jared and Lily walked back in, chatting and laughing. Jared was holding a silver portable hard drive. I stood up and gave him a smile of relief. Ready to back up. Everything we have is in there. Yes, everything you have is in there. Your bright future, and your endless abyss. Jared plugged the drive into my computer. Seeing the folder named Final Version Core Breakthrough on the screen, his eyes gleamed with uncontrollable excitement. He thought he was hiding it well, but to someone who had already died once, his greed and ambition were as blinding as a searchlight in the dark. Stella, look. This is the perfect collaboration, he said in his charming voice while dragging the file over. Your genius brain, combined with my strategic planning, we were born to stand together and change the world. I smiled and nodded, saying nothing. In my past life, I believed those words. I thought we were partners fighting side by side. I didn't know that in his eyes, I was just the sharpest, most convenient tool on his road to success. My brain was his ladder, my results were his medals. And now, I was sacrificing this tool myself, along with the hidden trap attached to it, a trap powerful enough to blow him to pieces. The progress bar for the copy crawled forward slowly and steadily. Each notch forward sounded like a death knell for him and Lily. Lily stood to the side, appearing to play on her phone, but her peripheral vision never left that progress bar. I could imagine the ecstasy and calculation in her heart. She must be thinking about how to package this complex data as her own flash of genius. Finally, the bar hit 100%. Done. Jared pulled out the drive and carefully placed it in his pocket, as if it contained the world's most precious treasure. He turned to hug me, whispering in my ear, "Go home and rest early. Tomorrow, we welcome a brand new beginning." I leaned into his embrace, feeling the fake warmth, and whispered back, "MMH, a brand new beginning." Yes, my brand new beginning. And the beginning of your end. The next morning, I didn't arrive at the lab an hour early like usual. Instead, I went straight to HR and handed in a resignation letter I had written days ago. The HR manager looked at me in shock, verifying repeatedly, "Researcher Stella, are you sure? Your project is about to produce final results. Leaving now? 10 years of hard work." "I'm sure." I interrupted him calmly, offering no further explanation. I knew that any explanation would be pale and powerless in the face of the coming storm. At 10 a.m. sharp, the department's weekly meeting began. When I walked into the conference room, everyone was there. Jared sat next to the chief, looking high-spirited. Lily sat diagonally across from him, wearing an exquisite designer suit, her makeup perfect. She looked less like she was attending a meeting, and more like she was walking a red carpet. Seeing me enter, Jared gave me an encouraging smile, his eyes holding a hint of urgency. I knew he was waiting for me to fall ill, or at least show mental instability, so he could logically take over the project presentation and casually attribute the credit to Lily's assistance and inspiration. That was step one of their plan. Too bad I wasn't following their script anymore. The meeting started. The chief cleared his throat and smiled. All right, we have great news today. Stella, I hear the Alzheimer's early diagnosis project you're leading has achieved a decisive breakthrough. Why don't you tell everyone about it? Let us share in the joy. Everyone's eyes focused on me, some expectant, some envious, some hiding jealousy. Jared and Lily both wore polite smiles, as if they could already see the dawn of victory. I stood up, but I didn't walk toward the projector. Instead, I walked to the center of the room. I looked around at everyone present. They were the elite of the domestic neuroscience field, colleagues I had spent day and night with for 10 years. Finally, my gaze landed on Jared and Lily. Chief colleagues, I began, my voice clear and steady. Before the report, I have an announcement to make. I took the copy of my resignation letter, already stamped by HR, out of my bag and placed it gently on the conference table. As of today, I am formally resigning from Lumina Institute. It was like throwing a rock into a calm lake. The conference room fell into dead silence for a second, then erupted into suppressed whispers. What? Resign? Is she joking? The project is about to succeed. Did she have a breakdown? The chief's face changed too. He looked at me in bewilderment. Stella, what are you doing? Whatever it is, we can talk about it. Why so sudden? Jared's expression was the most entertaining of all. The smile on his face froze instantly. Shock, confusion, anger, disbelief. Emotions flashed across his face before settling into a rage of betrayal. He shot up, walked quickly over to me, and hissed in a low voice only the two of us could hear. Stella, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? I looked at him calmly, even offering a slight smile. Of course I know, I said. I just feel tired. This project is too great, too heavy. My abilities aren't enough to carry it anymore. Before he could react, I raised my voice so everyone in the room could hear. So, I've decided to withdraw. I turned to the chief and bowed slightly. Chief, thank you for 10 years of mentorship. Regarding the follow-up work for this project, I believe Jared and Lily can complete it even better than I could. Lily's face went pale. She probably never imagined I would pull the rug out from under them like this. Her carefully prepared genius girl script hadn't even started, and I, the protagonist, had already dismantled the stage. The room was silent. Everyone looked at me like I was insane, giving up glory that was within reach, glory that could change the world, just to step aside for my boyfriend and his childhood friend. To these ambitious people, it was incomprehensible. And incomprehensible was exactly the effect I wanted. I gave no one a chance to ask questions. After my last sentence, I turned around and, under everyone's complicated gazes, walked out of the conference room with my head held high. I knew that from the moment I stepped out that door, everything at Lumina Institute had nothing to do with me. And a grand cruel play, prepared specifically for Jared and Lily, had just raised its curtain. I thought my ears would get some peace after leaving the meeting, but I underestimated Jared's persistence, or rather his obsession with the results he was about to steal. I had just reached my office door to pack my few personal belongings when he caught up, grabbing my wrist with enough force to crush the bone. Stella, what the hell do you think you're doing? He dragged me into the empty office and locked the door behind us. His image as the gentle elite was gone, replaced by the hideous face of a man whose core interests had been threatened. Do you have to throw a tantrum now? Just because I chatted with Lily a bit more yesterday? Since when did you become so unreasonable? He started his favorite performance, blaming everything on me, painting me as a crazy woman making a fuss over nothing. In my past life, I lost myself in these constant interrogations and gaslighting sessions, doubting if I really was the problem. But now I just found it laughable. I calmly pulled my hand back, rubbing my red wrist, and said indifferently, "Jared, you misunderstand. I'm not throwing a tantrum." "Then what is this? Self-sabotage? Handing over 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears to someone else? Do you think that's noble?" His voice was filled with a pained, "I'm doing this for your own good" tone, as if he really cared. "I'm not handing it over." I shook my head, walked to my desk, and started placing my professional books into a cardboard box one by one. My movements were unhurried and organized, a stark contrast to his agitation. "Jared, I genuinely feel I don't deserve this project." I turned to look at him, my gaze flawlessly sincere. The later stages of this research require a stronger heart, more flexible thinking, and more genius-level inspiration. My line of sight drifted past him to land on Lily, who had appeared at the office door and was watching us with a worried expression. I smiled at her slightly, then continued speaking to Jared. "I don't have those things, but Lily does." Jared froze. He probably didn't expect me to say that. I continued my performance, my tone filled with sincere self-deprecation and praise for Lily. "Did you forget? Last time we were stuck on a key data point for a month, it was Lily who casually asked, 'Why not try reverse modeling?' That gave me the idea. And the concept regarding the tau protein structure, that was also her, casually saying during a chat. It looks like a twisted ribbon," which led me to a new research direction. These were the stories Jared had fabricated in my past life to prove Lily's natural talent after she stole my work. Now, I was personally handing the credit to her. "Jared, you have to admit, Lily is the one blessed by the heavens. She doesn't need to lock herself in a lab and burn herself out like I do. She just needs a tiny bit of inspiration to light up the whole world." My voice wasn't loud, but it traveled clearly to Lily's ears outside the door. Her face flushed red, then turned white, a fascinating display. She wanted to refute it, but didn't know where to start, because what I was saying was exactly the persona she dreamed of having. Jared was completely bewildered by my speech. He opened his mouth to speak, but found himself speechless. What could he say? That Lily wasn't a genius? That would mean admitting he was a bad judge of character. That I was the core of the project? Then why would I quit? Watching him stuck in this dilemma gave me a rush of pleasure. This was the setup. Praise them to the skies, lift them to a height that made even them nervous, and leave them riding a tiger they couldn't dismount. So I delivered my summary, my tone relaxed yet final. "I'm quitting to let you two shine. Jared, haven't you always said you hoped Lily could achieve something in research and not waste her talent? Now is her chance." I patted his shoulder, like comforting an ignorant child. "I'm leaving this great project to you and Lily. I believe that under your leadership, it will shine even brighter than it would in my hands. After all, she is the true genius, isn't she?" With that, I stopped looking at him. I picked up the box of books and walked straight past him. As I passed Lily, I stopped and gave her a brilliant, heartfelt smile. "Lily, good luck. I'm rooting for you." Lily's body was stiff as a statue. The color had drained from her face, and she managed to squeeze out a smile that looked uglier than crying. I ignored them, holding my box, and walked with my head high out of the place where I had struggled for 10 years, and where I had once been buried. I knew that from this moment on, I had personally pushed them onto a fast track of no return, heading straight for destruction. They stole my life. So, I would give them back a carefully forged, grand, and magnificent funeral. I walked to the entrance of the institute. The winter sun hit my body. It was a bit blinding, but it brought a long-lost warmth. I took a deep breath. The air didn't smell of disinfectant and reagents anymore, it smelled of fresh freedom. My life, starting today, belonged only to me. After leaving Lumina Institute, the first thing I did was exit all work-related group chats. Watching the blinking avatars that once occupied my entire life, I clicked delete and exit one by one. Clean, decisive, no regrets. When the last group chat, Alzheimer's Task Force, disappeared from the list, I felt like I had shed a shackle I'd worn for years. Then, I blocked every contact method for Jared and Lily. With that done, I drove my old second-hand car away from the bustling metropolis I had lived in for a decade. I drove all the way south, returning to my hometown, a scenic, quiet coastal town. I rented a small house with a courtyard on the edge of town. There was a tall osmanthus tree in the yard. On the first day I settled in, I did nothing. I just put a lounge chair under the tree and sat there from sunrise to sunset. I watched the sunlight filter through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. I listened to the wind rustling the branches and the birds singing in the distance. For the first time in 10 years, my brain was allowed to completely empty out. It was peaceful and healing. 3 days later, I posted my first update on social media since leaving the institute. It was a photo of the lounge chair and a cup of tea in the yard, with the lush osmanthus tree and an impossibly blue sky in the background. The caption was simple: "New life, starting with listening to the wind." This post was like a bomb, instantly detonating my long silent social circle. Colleagues from the institute left all kinds of comments. "Stella, where are you vacationing? Beautiful scenery. Wow, early retirement life. I'm envious. Researcher Stella, did you really leave? That's such a pity. You're welcome back anytime." Of course, mixed in were the gloating and sarcastic remarks, likely from Lily's clique. Some people just have weak mental fortitude. One setback, and they become a deserter. Clearly she just wasn't capable enough, yet she makes it sound so poetic. Impressive. Jared didn't comment, but I knew he saw it. He was probably with Lily, mocking my incompetence while celebrating that the stumbling block, me, was finally gone. They assumed I was ruined. I wanted them to think that. I turned off my phone, ignored the noise of the outside world, and started preparing for my new life. I ordered a full set of professional recording and live streaming equipment online. High-fidelity microphones, sound cards, soundproofing panels, and a high-precision anatomical brain model for demonstrations. A week later, the equipment arrived. I turned a south-facing room into my exclusive studio. Everything was ready. I registered a new account on the country's biggest video platform, naming it Stella's Brain Workshop. The profile picture was a candid shot of me, makeup-free, smiling gently. The bio read: "Former neuroscience researcher. Let's talk about the brain." My first video went live 3 nights later. The title was unpretentious, sounding almost like a health lecture for seniors. How to self-test for early dementia risk using the clock drawing test. In the video, I didn't use flashy effects or background music. I just sat at my desk wearing a simple white t-shirt, looking like the girl next door, explaining the neurology behind the clock drawing test CDT in the simplest language possible. Look, when the parietal lobe functions suffer early damage, our spatial cognition declines. So, by asking the subject to draw a complete clock face with hands pointing to a specific time, we can preliminarily judge the risk of cognitive impairment based on the integrity of the circle, the sequence of the numbers, and the accuracy of the hands. As I spoke, I used a marker on a whiteboard to demonstrate the correct way to draw it and several typical erroneous versions. The video was long, 15 minutes, and the content was extremely dense. In the age of short, snappy videos, it was an outlier. 24 hours after posting, the stats were dismal. A few hundred views, only 2 comments. One was, "Thanks to the uploader, I'll have my parents try this." The other, "You're so professional," followed. This was about what I expected. I wasn't anxious. I knew the spread of knowledge needed time to ferment. At the exact same time I posted my first video, the tracking program I had planted in the academic trap folder sent me its first alert. Alert! File theoretical model neuronal reversal therapy.docs has been opened. IP address, Lumina Neuroscience Institute. I watched the notification pop up on my phone screen, and the corner of my mouth hooked into a cold smile. The fish had started to bite, and they would never know that on the abandoned computer I left at the institute, besides this academic trap filled with lethal errors, I had prepared another gift. A final gift sufficient to doom them eternally. The game had just begun. My science channel, Stella's Brain Workshop, operated quietly. I kept a schedule of 2 updates a week, always centered on brain health. I talked about how diet improves memory, the role of sleep in neuronal repair, and how meditation helps reshape the brain. I treated every video with rigorous scientific attitude. Every paper I cited was clearly referenced. I chewed up obscure academic papers and broke them down into plain English that ordinary people could understand. My follower count grew slowly. Half a month passed, and I had just broken 1,000. But the stickiness of my followers was incredibly high. We discussed things passionately in the comments, they asked questions, and even shared real cases from their families. My comment section wasn't full of jokes like other influencers, it was more like an online support group, warm and sincere. I never asked for likes or donations, yet the number of saves on my videos was far higher than the view count. I knew that for families with brain disease patients, this knowledge was a necessity. One day, while I was preparing a script on early non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's, a stranger called. "Hello, is this Ms. Stella?" A capable female voice asked. "Speaking." Milisagona Stella. "I'm the operations director for the Health Hub app. My last name is King. We've been watching your channel for a while. Your content is very professional and valuable. Would you be interested in a deep collaboration with our platform?" Health Hub was the largest online medical health platform in the country, with over 100 million users. Collaborating with them was a dream opportunity for any health influencer. I didn't show excessive surprise. I calmly asked, "Director King, what kind of collaboration specifically?" "We'd like to invite you to be assigned exclusive expert for our platform. We'll give you S-tier traffic support. Also, our platform's online store has a series of strictly screened supplements and rehabilitation devices for senior brain health. We hope you can act as our special selection officer and recommend them to users in your videos and live streams." I understood. This was knowledge monetization. I didn't agree immediately. "Director King, I appreciate the traffic support, but regarding product selection and sales, I have a prerequisite." "Go ahead." "I need to see the qualifications, clinical trial reports, and third-party testing certificates for all products. I will review them personally. I will only recommend products I approve of. And when recommending them, I must clearly inform users that these are supplementary means and absolutely cannot replace formal medical treatment." Director King was silent for a few seconds, then laughed. "Ms. Stella, you are as rigorous as we imagined. No problem, we fully agree to your terms. In fact, your professionalism and responsibility are exactly why we chose you." We quickly nailed down the details. 3 days later, my first live stream began. I didn't scream 3, 2, 1 by now, like other streamers. I spent the first hour explaining the scientific principles of how omega-3 fatty acids delay brain cell aging, just like a normal video. Only then did I bring out the deep-sea fish oil from the partner. So when choosing these products, pay attention to the EPA and DHA content. For example, the one in my hand has a purity of over 95%, which is quite high for this category. Of course, I want to emphasize that dietary sources are better than supplements. If your daily diet includes deep-sea fish more than twice a week, you don't need extra supplements. This product is more suitable for seniors with irregular diets or specific needs. No exaggerated claims, no pressure tactics. Just an objective, calm analysis of the product's pros and cons, and who it was for. But the bullet comments in the live stream were hotter than ever. Finally, a streamer who speaks human language. Crying. Listening to Stella's class makes me feel smarter. Buying 3 bottles for my parents just because of this teacher's responsibility. No need to hesitate, if the teacher recommends it, I'm buying. That night's sales exceeded the platform's expectations by 3 times. Director King called me personally to congratulate me, her voice full of excitement and respect. "Miss Stella, you created a miracle. Do you know your return rate is the lowest on the entire platform? 0 competition." I smiled. I wasn't surprised. I knew that trust is the most powerful purchasing power in the world. Hanging up, I looked at the long string of numbers in my bank account. That was a salary that would have taken me years to earn at the institute. For the first time, I realized clearly that my brain and my knowledge were my most precious wealth. It didn't need to depend on any platform or anyone's approval. I could shine on my own and create value. I opened my computer. The tracking program sat quietly on the desktop. I clicked it to check the logs. Over the past month, Jared and Lily's team had been studying the academic trap I left behind almost around the clock. The frequency of opening the files was increasing, and there were access records from multiple sub-IP addresses, indicating they had set up a dedicated task force for this. Looking at those dense access logs, I could almost see them in the lab, ecstatic, arguing, forgetting to eat or sleep over fake data. They thought they were climbing a peak of science, unaware that it was a bottomless grave I had dug for them. And I was using their stupidity and greed to water my new, free and wealthy life. This feeling was damn good. My career was booming. With traffic support from Health Hub, Stella's Brain Workshop quickly broke the 1 million follower mark. I became the undisputed top influencer in the brain health field. With fame came invitations, but I politely declined them all. I kept my own pace, focusing on content and occasional live streams. I was making more and more money, so I bought a small villa with a garden in town and settled down completely. Meanwhile, good news came from Lumina Institute. Jared and Lily didn't let me down. They fully believed in the fake, neuronal reversal therapy project I left behind. Relying on Jared's position and Lily's family background, they successfully applied for a massive research grant and established the Lily Neuroscience Innovation Lab. For a time, Lily was in the spotlight. Media packaged her as a genius scientist with both beauty and brains, the future light that would conquer Alzheimer's. The higher profile they kept, the safer I felt. Because I knew, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. However, I felt they weren't falling fast enough. I needed to add some fuel to the fire, to make them sprint madly down this wrong path. So, I registered a new, untraceable anonymous email address. I wrote an email to a vice director at Lumina Institute, a man named Dr. Williams. He was Jared's biggest rival for the department chief position, and they had always been at odds. The content was simple. I didn't say anything substantial, just used the tone of an insider dropping hints and shadows. Subject: some concerns regarding Dr. Lily's project. Dr. Williams, hello. Pardon the intrusion. I am an ordinary researcher at the Institute, and I have been paying close attention to Dr. Lily's ongoing neuronal reversal therapy project. Dr. Lily's talent is astounding. To achieve such breakthrough progress in such a short time is truly a model for us all. However, while studying Dr. Lily's recently published phase reports, I noticed that the acquisition path for some experimental data seems overly efficient, and the speed of model construction far exceeds conventional research ethics. Perhaps I am overthinking it, but since this concerns the Institute's reputation and scientific rigor, I felt it necessary to reflect this to an upright senior like yourself. That is all. Best regards. A junior who reveres science. Every word praised Lily, but read together, the meaning was clear. Lily's project might involve fake data or plagiarism. I didn't provide evidence because I didn't need to. For someone like Dr. Williams, once the seed of suspicion was planted, he would nurture it himself. He would absolutely not let go of any chance to strike at his rival, Jared. Sure enough, 3 days later, I heard rumors from former colleagues. Apparently, at an internal academic seminar, Dr. Williams publicly asked Lily a series of sharp questions about her experimental procedures and raw data logs. Lily was caught off guard and stammered. In the end, Jared had to step in, using core secrets, inconvenient to reveal right now, as an excuse to brush it off. But this attack undoubtedly sounded an alarm for Jared and Lily. They realized someone in the Institute was suspecting them. Given their paranoid and opportunistic personalities, what would they do next? The only way was to produce even more shocking results at a faster speed to shut everyone up. To use a massive, unquestionable success to cover up all procedural irregularities. The feedback from my tracking program confirmed my guess. In the following days, their lab's IP address was online almost 24 hours a day, accessing the flawed model at an unprecedented frequency. They were accelerating. They were sprinting full speed toward the cliff I had set for them. I closed my laptop, made myself a cup of flower tea, and walked into the garden. The sun was perfect, and my roses were blooming beautifully. I took out my phone and opened a special fan group. This group was established specifically for followers with family members suffering from Alzheimer's. We didn't talk products or gossip, we just shared caregiving experiences and encouraged each other. A user named Lightchaser was particularly active. I knew him. His name was Mr. Chase, an engineer. His wife had unfortunately developed early-onset Alzheimer's in her 40s. In my past life, he had trusted Lily's pseudoscience therapy, which the media had blown up into a miracle. He sold his assets to pay for her treatment. The result didn't slow the disease, it accelerated his wife's cognitive decline, leading to an irreversible tragedy. He later became one of the key figures who reported Lily for academic fraud. In this life, shortly after my rebirth, I met him on a forum where he was desperately seeking help. I used my professional knowledge to give him practical advice and invited him to my group. Now he posted a photo. It showed a woman with delicate features sitting in a wheelchair, smiling at the camera. Her eyes were a bit vacant, but she looked healthy. Mr. Chase wrote, "Thanks to teacher Stella and everyone here. I adjusted her diet and rehab exercises according to the teacher's method. My wife's mood seems much more stable lately. She even hugged me last night. I know the road is hard, but as long as there's a glimmer of hope, I won't give up." Everyone in the group liked the photo and sent blessings. I sent him a private message. "Mr. Chase, your wife looks much better. I'm happy for you. Remember, love and companionship are the best medicine." He replied quickly, "Teacher Stella, thank you so much. You are our family's benefactor. Without you, we'd still be lost. By the way, that Dr. Lily on the news lately, they make her sound miraculous. Do you think it's reliable?" I looked at his question, my finger hovering over the screen. I typed back, word by word. "Mr. Chase, please remain vigilant about any so-called new therapies that haven't passed phase 3 clinical trials or received FDA approval. For our families, we cannot afford to gamble." We couldn't afford to gamble. But Jared and Lily, for fame and fortune, dared to gamble everything. And I would be the final dealer in this high-stakes game. I put away my phone, picked up my shears, and snipped off the reddest rose in full bloom. The petals were vibrant, the thorns sharp, just like the bloody fate they were about to welcome. Time flew. Another month passed. During this month, my contact with Mr. Chase became increasingly frequent. He shared his wife's condition with me almost daily, like a diary. And I acted like a patient family doctor, answering caregiving questions and offering professional guidance. I knew how precious this kind of professional support was for a caregiver. He had built nearly 100% trust in me. This trust was a crucial link in my revenge plan. He was the deepest, most emotionally impactful bomb I had planted. One night, while I was preparing a live stream script, Mr. Chase sent me a video. In it, his wife sat at a table, holding a brush, clumsily but earnestly painting on paper. Though the lines were crooked and colors chaotic, her expression was focused and calm. Mr. Chase's voice message followed, choked with excitement. "Teacher Stella, look. This is the art therapy you mentioned. She hasn't been this focused in a long time. Just now, she pointed at the red figure in the drawing and smiled at me. She smiled. I could feel his joy through the screen. I was happy for him, but I also knew the time was ripe." I replied, "That's wonderful, Mr. Chase. This is a very positive signal. It shows that with correct non-drug intervention, we can delay the progression and improve quality of life." He replied instantly, "Yes. I finally understand what you mean by love is the best medicine. I don't know how to thank you." I took a deep breath and typed, "Mr. Chase, you don't need to thank me. I'm just doing what a researcher should do. Actually, seeing you and your wife improve encourages me. To be honest, the reason I left the Institute to do science communication was that I saw too many research stars like Dr. Lily. They pursue sensational, subversive therapies for fame and fortune, but few are willing to lower themselves to do this boring basic care research that actually helps patients." I mentioned Lily's name again, subtly placing her in opposition to myself. Mr. Chase's reply went exactly where I wanted. "Teacher Stella, you are too humble. What you do is truly meaningful. That Lily, I saw her news. It feels shaky, too mystical, like she can cure the disease tomorrow." I guided him further. Research requires rigor and time. Any claim of rapid reversal or complete cure for Alzheimer's at this stage should be marked with a huge question mark. Sometimes, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. And what's more terrifying is that wrong treatments bring not just disappointment, but irreversible harm. This sentence was a nail driven deep into Mr. Chase's heart. He was silent for a long time before replying. "Teacher, I understand. I will keep my eyes open. Thank you." From this moment on, Lily changed in his mind from a question mark to a dangerous person who might hurt his wife. I had planted the seed of hatred. Now I just had to wait for the right moment to pour the final ladle of oil on it. And Jared and Lily were creating that moment for me with their own hands. 2 weeks later, Lumina Institute held a grand press conference, announcing that the neuronal reversal therapy, led by Dr. Lily, had achieved a historic breakthrough in animal trials. At the conference, Lily wore a white dress, standing under the spotlight like an angel. She announced to the world in an emotional voice, "We have reason to believe that in the near future, Alzheimer's will no longer be a terminal illness. We will bring hope back to countless families." Jared stood beside her as the project leader, his face full of pride and love. News coverage was overwhelming. Headlines like "Genius Girl Scientist Conquers Century-Old Puzzle" filled the media. Lily's reputation reached its peak. Sitting in my studio, looking at the face being worshipped on the screen, I knew Judgment Day was coming. I checked my tracking program. The logs showed that the day before the press conference, they had accessed the flawed model for the last time. And most deeply, they had swallowed the poison I gave them whole, packaged it as an elixir of life, and were preparing to sell it to the world. I smiled. Then I opened the chat with Mr. Chase. I didn't say anything, I just forwarded the link to the press conference to him. Lily's major breakthrough became the talk of society. Her name and photo appeared everywhere. The Institute's phone lines were jammed with desperate families asking when this miraculous therapy would start clinical trials. Jared and Lily basked in the fame. They gave interviews, attended high-end forums, and acted like leaders of the field. In an interview with a financial channel, the host asked Jared, "Director Jared, we know this great project was initiated by your former colleague and ex-girlfriend, Miss Stella, but she chose to leave right before the dawn of success. Do you have anything to say about that?" On screen, Jared gave a regretful, forgiving smile. "Stella is a very talented researcher," he said slowly. "But research requires not just talent, but a strong heart that can withstand pressure and loneliness. Perhaps she made her own choice. As a former partner, I can only wish her well." His words were diplomatic but full of insinuations. Stella, was a deserter with weak mental fortitude who couldn't handle the loneliness. Lily added from the side, looking innocent and sincere. "Sister Stella was a senior I admired. We all felt it was a pity she left. But someone has to carry the baton of research. Everything we do now is also to fulfill her original dream." Look, what a perfect narrative. My departure was a personal failure. They were the heroes enduring humiliation to carry on the legacy. For a while, the internet was full of sympathy for them, and mockery for me, the short-sighted deserter who missed her chance. All of this was within my expectations. While they were busy dealing with the media, my business empire was quietly expanding. Director King called me again. This time his tone was solemn. "Miss Stella, good news. The domestic health giant MediLife has seen your videos. They highly value your professionalism and IP value. They want to collaborate on a capital level." Capital level? Yes. They want to invest in you to establish a brand new, independent health management consulting firm. You lead the content and professional direction. They provide funds, technology, and channels. Simply put, they want to turn Stella's brain workshop from a personal IP into an industry. I agreed after 10 minutes of consideration. I knew that the greater my social influence and commercial value, the more weight my future words would carry. I flew to MediLife headquarters, held meetings, and finalized the new company structure. I held 40% of the shares and veto power. The new company was named Stella Health. Our first project was an app for early screening and non-drug intervention for cognitive disorders. While my team and I were debating product details, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Headline: Rising medical star Dr. Lily nominated for this year's National Medical Star Youth Award. The National Medical Star was the highest honor for young scientists in the country. Winning it meant stepping into the reserve team for the Academy of Sciences. I clicked the news. The photo showed Lily in a lab coat, smiling at a test tube, radiating the aura of a science goddess. The comments were full of praise. Well deserved. She's saving humanity. Congrats, Dr. Lily. I closed the news calmly and looked up at my team. All right, let's continue. For the user data privacy module, I demand the highest level of encryption. My heart was calm. I knew that when they stood on the highest, brightest stage, it would be the best time to pull the net. The temple of honor built on lies would soon become their execution ground. The final selection for the National Medical Star would be held in 1 month, broadcast live on national television. Nominees had to present their reports and accept questions from the jury. This was the stage I had prepared for them. But before that, I needed to set one last fatal trap. Specifically for Jared. I knew Jared. He was greedy and extremely paranoid. Even though I left, he would turn over everything I left behind to ensure no loose ends, and to squeeze the last bit of value out of me. One night, I hosted a QA livestream. In the second half, a fan asked a seemingly casual question. Teacher Stella, you worked at Lumina for 10 years. Did you participate in any big national projects? The account asking was a sock puppet I controlled. I paused, feigning hesitation, then smiled helplessly at the camera. Well, how to put it? I did participate in some. But many projects, especially those involving the National Brain Initiative, have strict confidentiality agreements. I can't be too specific. National Brain Initiative was a real, top-level classified project. Dropping this name would hook Jared. Then I shifted my tone to one of reminiscence, showing off slightly. But I can tell you, the experience was precious. Sometimes, for data security, our computers were physically disconnected from the internet. Taking data out required complex approvals. Speaking of which, due to my work habits, on my old computer's encrypted D drive, I think I saved some non-core study materials and meeting minutes from that project. I wonder if I formatted it properly when I left. I spoke breezily, as if talking about an unimportant old matter, but a specific viewer in the stream would memorize every word. I knew Jared or Lily had people monitoring my streams. A top researcher left non-core materials from the National Brain Initiative on an old computer. For Jared, this meant risk. If leaked, he'd be responsible. But it also meant temptation. Who knew if there was something inspiring in there? Or something he could use to blackmail me? He would do anything to get that computer. And what was actually on it? The encrypted drive existed. The folder existed. But the content was 90% public papers disguised as classified. However, deep in a compressed file, I placed a real gift, a forged top-secret document analyzing the application of brain-computer interface technology in the military. The format, red headers, and serial numbers were perfect imitations based on my future knowledge. If this file was found leaked on his possession, it wasn't just a breach of contract. It was espionage, theft of state secrets, a crime that would put him in prison forever. I ended the stream and looked at the night. My smile grew colder. Jared, I hope you like this final gift. You stole 10 years of my work, I'll take decades of your freedom as repayment. As I set the final trap, Lily's fame peaked. Her nomination made her a god. She was hired as a guest professor at a top university. Lumina Institute received massive funding. Jared became department chief. They stood in the center of the spotlight. And the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. That shadow was sweeping toward me. A week before the awards, massive amounts of dirt on me exploded online. Marketing accounts released coordinated articles. The resentful ex-colleague behind Genius Girl Lily. From top researcher to streamer. How Stella ruined her hand. Did Stella leave out of choice or jealousy? They painted a story of the farmer and the snake. I was the isolated, psychologically fragile, jealous villain. Lily was the kind, talented son. Jared was the man caught in the middle. They claimed I bullied Lily and left because I couldn't handle my boyfriend admiring a more talented woman. I went from a respected educator to a clown mocked by the internet. My comment sections were flooded with abuse. Get out of science. You don't deserve to talk about brains. Manipulative bitch. You just want quick money. My company, Stella Health, was affected. My CEO, Old Chun, was sweating. Stella, this is a systematic smear campaign. The PR firm behind this lists Lumina Institute as a client. I listened calmly. Statement? Yes, we will issue one. But not now. I looked at the date circled in red on the calendar, the National Medical Star Awards. We wait until all the spotlights are on them. Until they stand the highest and will fall the hardest. I checked my tracking program. A final alert popped up. Alert! Filed National Brain Initiative Study Materials.zip has been fully copied. Operation IP. Lumina Neuroscience Institute, Director Jared's office. The fish had swallowed the hook, line, and sinker. 3 days later. The awards ceremony. The internet attacks on me were at their peak. I did one thing. I called my mentor from my past life, Dr. Sterling, a titan in neuroscience known for his integrity. Professor, it's Stella. Do you remember years ago we discussed a theoretical loophole regarding tau protein misfolding? I described the exact fatal flaw I had buried in the trap. I told him I noticed Lily's therapy was shockingly similar to my old, flawed model. I didn't say plagiarism. I said concern for risk. Stella, Dottore Sterling sounded grave. This is important. I will verify it. Then he added, you are a judge for this year's awards too, right? As the previous year's winner in my past life timeline, and technically recognized in this one before my exit, I still held credentials. Yes, Professor. Good. See you at the ceremony. Next, I sent a package to Science Eye, a top academic watchdog. It contained my time-stamped notes, drafts, and emails compared against Lily's papers. The evidence chain was unbreakable. I messaged Old Chun. Prepare the strongest PR release. Launch time. 3 days from now, 8:30 p.m. 8:30 p.m. The exact time of the QA session at the awards. The ceremony was glitzy. I sat in a back corner, wearing a mask and cap. Lily accepted her award in a white gown, thanking Jared with tears in her eyes. This honor is half his. Then came the academic presentation. She explained the neuronal reversal therapy confidently, displaying my charts on the big screen. The live stream comments worshipped her. Suddenly, a voice cut from the judges' seats. Dr. Sterling. Dr. Lily, hold on. He didn't wait. In your target induction model, did you account for the backlash risk from the misfolding cascade reaction? Lily froze. That was the exact flaw. We optimized it, she stammered. Oh. Show us the algorithm formula then, Dr. Sterling pressed, his voice cold. She couldn't. According to your data, the test subject's cognition dropped off a cliff at week 12. You called it individual variance. But by my calculation, that is exactly when the cascade reaction triggers massive neuronal death. Is this a therapy or a scam? The word scam hit the hall like a bomb. The audience was stunned. Lily was shaking, pale as a sheet. Then, a scream tore through the room. Liar! You snake! You destroyed my wife! Mr. Chase charged the stage, breaking past security. My wife was a volunteer. We paid you. She got worse in a month. The doctor says her brain atrophy accelerated 3 times. You used her as a lab rat. Murderer. The accusation shifted from academic fraud to criminal manslaughter. Jared tried to stand up but was surrounded by reporters. Mr. Chase rushed Lily. He didn't hit her, he shoved her. Get off the stage. You don't deserve to be here. Lily stumbled in her heels, falling backward. Her spine hit the sharp metal edge of a piece of equipment. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the hall. Lily lay paralyzed on the floor, twitching. At that moment, my phone buzzed. Old Chun sent. Online, the complete evidence of plagiarism dropped. The time-stamped comparisons were undeniable. The internet exploded. Police arrived. One team secured the scene. Another team, broadcast live, raided Jared's office. They found the classified, military document on his computer. Jared was handcuffed on live TV screaming, "Stella framed me. It's her computer." But possession was proof. He had stolen the files to hoard them. Academic ruin. Social death. Physical paralysis. Legal imprisonment. My revenge was complete. The next day, headlines screamed medical scandal of the century. My reputation was restored. We owe Stella an apology trended. My app downloads skyrocketed. 6 months later, Lily was diagnosed with a burst fracture of the thoracic spine. High-level paraplegia. She was penniless after lawsuits and dumped in a cheap nursing home. Jared was sentenced to 25 years for illegal medical practice, embezzlement, and theft of state secrets. I visited him once. He looked broken. He slammed the glass begging, "Stella, give me a chance for the sake of our 10 years. 10 years. I said through the glass. If I hadn't been reborn, I would be dead. You and Lily would be stepping on my corpse to reach the top. You would tell yourself I was just too weak. This isn't cruelty, Jared. It's fairness." I walked out into the sun. A year later, Stella Health was a national success. I lived in my quiet town, running my studio in a renovated schoolhouse. I received a thick letter from Jared in prison. I shredded it without opening it. I sat in my recording booth, looking at the greenery outside. "Hello everyone, I'm Stella. Today we won't talk about science. Let's listen to the wind in the osmanthus trees, and the sound of freedom." The star had fallen, but the sun had risen. My life was just beginning.